Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the RENNSPORT Nordschleife League here on, obviously, RENNSPORT. Today with the penultimate round of the season in the GT4 class, and I think it will be very exciting because the GT4 cars have genuinely been a lot of fun. And yeah, I'm not alone here today. The action will be brought to you also by Tim Ireland. Welcome, Tim.
Hello, Lino. Hello, everyone on Twitch. How are you guys doing? I hope you've had a fun time since Christmas and loved going back to work. Yeah!
Well, I guess most people don't have to work today, except for us. But yeah, I'm sure we will have a great time here today. 15 cars, both Audi and BMW represented, some very, very quick drivers. And yeah, I mean, some of the names were also on the last GT4 race we had. If you paid attention in the intro sequence to this live stream, you may have seen some action bits from that race. So let's see what happens here today. We are about to start in qualifying. And what do you think? What do you expect with these cars compared to the other classes we had so far?
I think the GT4s have been fairly close. They're obviously not going to be as close as the M2 CS, being a one-car make race cup series as it was. But yeah, I think both of the M4 and the R8 GT4 are fairly close together in performance, so it shouldn't be so much about the machinery, although they will have their own strengths and weaknesses throughout the sectors as usual. But I'm looking forward to some good door-to-door racing.
Yeah, I can only agree with that. First across the line here is our current championship leader, Enrico Bräuninger, aka Schwigo for the GST team. In the BMW, I think the BMW is definitely a very strong car here today due to the drivers that use it. Most of the top contenders driving it, in fact. So yeah, open setup as well. We've seen with the GT3X how much of a difference the open setup can make. Some cars being incredibly fast in the straight line but struggling through the more technical sections. Same today maybe with the GT4s, even though they have less aerodynamic to begin with. Down into the Dunlop Cairo. The GP circuit not really the biggest challenge here on the lap.
And I had a point and I've completely lost it.
Well, stuff
I
that
got
just
distracted
happens.
by a car on screen and completely forgot what I was saying.
Well, maybe we can pick up some different point then. One of the drivers that is here today, who we haven't seen so far in this season, is Maximilian Dehn. He's also driving the BMW M4, and I mean, most of you who have been stuck around with this Twitch channel for quite some time will recognize this name. He's been one of the fastest drivers on this circuit. He's been out for quite some time due to, would you call that injury? I guess so.
Yeah, I guess so.
But he is back in the race, and it's a pleasure to have him. Always great fun. And very much looking forward to see what he can do. As well as another big name on the Nordschleife here in RENNSPORT, Tim Schroeder, who also has been one of the top contenders in the early Founders League seasons. Back here on the Nordschleife, joining us for the first time this season.
Yeah, we've got some of the fast guys in today, so it should make for a pretty exciting race, along with Ali Zahir going sideways at some point. You know it's going to happen.
Of course, it's always going to happen. He's actually showing that off pretty immediately and nearly losing it pretty much instantly. We switched to him. But that's what you expect from Ali Zahir, isn't it?
He's got an exciting driving style to watch, let's put it that way. But yeah, I think the beginning of the race, everyone's going to be trying to make moves on the Grand Prix track as usual, but hopefully things will calm down a little bit by the time they get to the Nordschleife proper. And I'm looking forward to some great racing from these guys.
I think it was in the BMW M2 race that we saw just too many cars entering turns 1 and 2 side by side. Maybe they've learned from it. A lot of the drivers are the same as from that first race. So let's see if they learned. Here's one of the Audis, Cesco Moreira. Also in a good position in the championship, I'd say, to make up some ground. He's currently in P16 on 12 points, but has a lot of people close in front of him in the standings. With a good result, maybe a good chance for him to break into the top 10.
Yeah, he's always one of our guys who seems to quietly pick up points as the season goes on, so he might be sneaking his way further up the table as we're getting pretty close to the end of the season now.
Yeah, indeed, just one more race to go after this one, and will be with a bonus point. The GT3 90 minutes as Roger Niche is going a bit wide here into Adenauer 4, spinning around. But this race will be about just keeping it on track in the race. What you do in qualifying is not super important, but also more problems for Dennis Kurzer, who we currently also see in P20 in the standings. But making mistakes now in qualifying, not as bad as in the race. And if we take a look at the championship, it's all in the hands of Schwego with 2 races. 16-point lead to Ali Zaya. Dominic Ladler unfortunately not here today, so he will probably drop out of contention. Kimi Hapler maybe with a chance to come back into contention, but already 28 points down, so he will really need 2 very lucky races.
Yeah, he's got a fair few points to make up there, but he's got the talent for sure. He's got the speed. Maybe find it a bit more difficult with Max Dean being on the track today, but we'll see what happens. You can't really predict too much what's going to happen in one of these Nordschleife races.
Yeah, better said, it's impossible to predict what's happening in these races. But so far, Enrico really quick around this track in pretty much any car he's been driven in. So, yeah, of course he could win the championship today, as Radoslav is asking in chat. It all depends on how many people will show up for the final race, because of course the point system does adapt to the amount of drivers. Today, 15 cars, that is quite a good number of points he can get. I think up to 22, if I'm not mistaken. But it is unlikely if the rest of the competition just keeps it clean in the race, finishes either close behind or close in front of him. But it is a good chunk of a lead he has over Alizaya. Both fighting for the first championship as well.
Yeah, there's maybe a little bit of nerves with it being their first time going for a win, but they've both been pretty good at keeping a cool head, so I'm not expecting them to lose too much.
And they're all driving in the same car nonetheless.
Yeah, true.
We also have the return of another NGS driver. We usually have seen Cesco Moreira waving the NGS flag. He's of course also here today, but Piotr Zadaiba is also back after quite some absence, which is great to see. Always has been quite successful around here by just keeping a clean race. Never the fastest on pace. Of course, there was also always quite some good competition, but he still was able to get quite some good results by just keeping it on track, picking up the pieces. So I'm curious to see what he can do today.
Yeah, that seems to be the NGS motto, is just stay on track. You can get points at the end of it.
I mean, if you remember back, I think it was the 2-hour race at the end of Season 2, where Radoslav Pionkiewicz had his first race here in the Nordschleife League as big drift for Schwego, and he somehow keeps it on track through Schwalbenschwanz, another big drift. How does he keep hold of that BMW M4? It is certainly not faster, but it does look very good.
He was styling it.
Completely. Oh, and the internet issue there on my end. Let's hope that this won't continue throughout the evening. But to the point I was referring to earlier with Radoslav Piłonkiewicz, his first 2-hour race, he did struggle maybe a bit on pace, but he still, I think, managed a top 10 result or something along those lines, but just keeping it on track, by just staying in the race, not giving up, and I think that was a great way to start off at the Nordschleife. So a big respect there on his behalf. See what he can do here today in the race. Unfortunately couldn't take part in qualifying. But first up we will see who will make it onto pole position. Schwigo coming on down into Hohenrhein. Schroeder currently a bit behind that. What can our championship leader do? It's an 8:35.1. Can anybody challenge that? Maximilian Dehn 8th. Oh, sorry. Schwigo with 8:52. Maximilian Dehn with the 8:35. Alizaya with an 8:38. Tim Schroeder not really having the lap you would expect him to. Cesco seems to have lost a bit of his car. But we will see what he can do coming across the line.
He's gone for some weight saving.
Kimi Hapler slotting into third with an 8:47. Kasimir Konoski has already won a championship, that being one of the regional championships. Certainly knows how to get some good points. As he comes across the line, will probably be a 9-minute lap time. And indeed it's an 8:25, just behind Piotr Zadaibe, who puts in an 8:24. Dennis Kurzer across the line in 10th. So yeah, Maximilian Dehn on pole alongside Alizaya. Then it's Kimi Hapler and Schwigo.
Yeah, he's not taking it easy coming back, is Max Dehn, is he? He's gone straight in there, giving everyone a good kick in by nearly 4 seconds.
Yeah, still waiting for one car to finish qualifying, that being Nemesis Pro. He will start in 11th as things see, but yeah, what we've learned previously in previous races is definitely that the starting position doesn't really matter here at the Nordschleife, especially with the Grand Prix circuit coming up first. So it will be very interesting going down to turn 1. We know that all in the top 5 have very quick starts, that being Maximilian Dehn, Alizaya, Kimi Hapler, Schwigo and Tim Schroeder. So maybe these 5 will be able to get a bit of a gap to the cars behind, although Cesco Monuera in the mid-engined Audi may have a good chance to use the best traction possible and get into the fight as well.
Yeah, he's got to kind of try and use the Audi to its strengths a bit here, I think, and see if he can get up in the mix with the M4. It's a big ask, and it's not. Maybe aggression isn't what you'd think of when you think Cesco Monuera, but you never know. We'll see what happens.
We certainly will. Race will start in just a moment's time, as everybody is getting ready for the start. Could we see the comeback for Alizaya, or could Schwigo decide the championship a bit earlier? We have them all lined up. The red lights are on. And we go racing. And it's been a very good getaway for the cars on the left-hand side. That's being Maximilian Dehn and Kimi Hapler. It seems like both Schwigo and Alizaya have struggled a bit. They basically have swapped lanes as they go to the inside and outside respectively. Cesco Monuera still in that 6th place. Bit of contact there between Schwigo and I think that was Kimi Hapler. Now side by side Tim Schroeder and Schwigo for P4. And it seems like Enrico is going to drop down to 5th here. Further side by side between Piotr Zadaibe and Konoski as the Polish man is moving up into P7.
Yeah, not a great start there by Enrico, but he's back on the tail of Tim Schroeder and already making moves. Hopefully not too dangerous ones.
Trying it around the
a long way to
outside.
go.
You do have a lot of grip there on the outside of Dunlop, but yeah, still hard to really make the pass work. Then is Kurza up into P9, I think he started P10. Vladislav Pironkovic already into P12. Remember, he did not participate in qualifying, unfortunately. And up front, Alizai is making pressure. He's not letting Maximilian Dehn just run away. And they already have 1 second advantage to Kimi Harpler in third.
Yeah, Kimi's a bit more in no man's land right now. Ali's doing a good job of sticking with Max Dean, taking a bit of a look on the inside there, coming up to the chicane. So he's maybe not content with second place right now.
Schwego just moved past him, Schroeder, as he's kicking up some sparks while going onto the Nordschleife. That means Schwego back up into P4. And we are basically in the same order we started up until P7, which is now inherited by Carsten Hermann Konarski. Let's go on board with Dennis Kurza here behind Piotr Zadaibe. Of course, on the Nordschleife, quite hard to pass with these cars because they do get to quite high speeds, but they don't really have the aero to make moves around the outside. But that doesn't mean we haven't seen moves before, and maybe Schwego is trying one through one of the fastest sections, through Flugplatz now, the double right-hander, slipping sideways, and that will lose him a bit of speed.
Yep, correctly putting the hazard warnings on there.
And that, of course, being a move that Julian Chicot has pioneered, if you want to say so. And again, a big drift there from Schwego. I wonder how he set that car up, because it seems to be super loose on the rear. We'll see if that pays off.
Just starting to lose contact with Max Dean up front there. He's getting a bit out the slipstream zone, and he's got that big third place train of Harpler, Schwego, and Tim Schroeder kind of edging their way closer to him right now.
These three really not separated by much. And all of them definitely in good contention here. But keeping the nerves together.
They're not tripping each other too much by fighting either, are they?
Yeah, that will be something we'll see later. And Schwego trying it around the outside in Metzgersfeld. We are still side by side. And there is contact between the two of them. And big hit into the wall for the both of them. And that's exactly what Schwego did not need in this race. He tried a very audacious move there. Just Moreira moving past. But two cars alongside into Metzgersfeld, that's just such a big risk.
Yeah, it was a fairly ballsy move, we'll put it that way. But it's given Tim Schroeder a lot of clean air, but it has backed them off a bit from Ali Zahir, who's caught up a little bit to Max Dean now, actually. I think it must be a car setup issue. Decision is probably better than issue, as he seems to be closing up and then losing a bit of space depending where they are on track.
Zadaibe running a bit wide out of Versailles, losing 2 positions to Dennis Kurza and Loris Pellis. One of the new drivers here, and seemingly also making a good debut here. Schwego back past Chesco, so his pace not really down that much after that collision. So maybe he got a bit more lucky with that one.
His car seems to be pretty good, so he's carrying on. Just got to set his sights on Kimi Harpler 4 seconds up the track right now.
But yeah, it's just so much risk you take going around the outside of Metzgersfeld. It seemed like just wasn't enough space because Enrico was as much to the outside as possible into the second right-hander. As Schwigo is again hitting the wall there on the exit of Mood Cover.
He's leaving nothing on the table here, as he's putting it all out there and seeing what he can make of it. Maybe just rein it in a little bit, Enrico. You've got 40 minutes left.
And of course that is very good news to Alizaya, because for him this is now quite the points gap he would make up to Enrico. If it were to stay like this, of course the race is still long, so anything can happen. And there's still a lot of
off a bit more from Max Dean again, but he seems to be growing the gap between him and Tim Schroeder, so he's a bit in no man's land, but he's in a good no man's land, I think.
But we've also seen Alizaya lose it on very weird occasions, also with this car. So
it's true.
He's not one to really back down. Wojoni is trying to get closer to Piotr Zadaibu. Wojoni is somebody who really plopped up after the launch of RENNSPORT and pretty much has participated in all RCL and RNL races. He may not always have been on stream since he was in the second split for some time, but still a huge respect for showing up each week, and it definitely shows in his points tally throughout. He's getting faster, he's getting better with the cars, and it's always very nice to see these drivers develop. Max Dehn
kind of. Sorry, carry on.
Max Dehn coming through Galgenkopf, close to finishing lap 1. Of what will probably be a 6-lap race if my math serves me right.
I was going to say that things seem to have spread out a little bit more, but there's still some battles going on further down the field. Some of the back markers of the race are pretty close together, and still a bit of battling going on.
Wojoni is just sliding a bit wide through the second carousel. If he can keep it somewhere in the reach of 5/10 to Piotr Zadaibu, he may be able to make a move. And that's also Carsten Hermann Konaski just in front of them, side by side with Piotr Zadaibu, and a lot of traffic on the Döttinger Höhe. He may be able to make another attack in the slipstream. Very long straight here, something that you don't really have on any other track.
Yeah, that slipstream really bunching those cars up there. There was a little bit of separation between them before the Döttinger, but they seem to really come close together now.
Oh, and losing it under braking, Lewis Pellis with a big hit into the wall at pretty much the highest speed possible. Just seemed like in the slipstream, rather than the dirty air, losing the air now in a very precarious situation because there's traffic at high speed coming up. Of course, yellow flags are out, but very hard to get the car turned around there. Does a fantastic job to keep it out of any cars coming up.
He did a good job waiting there. Some people might be a bit impatient and just carry on, but he waited. Thank you very much.
And he's also coming into the pits to repair the damage done. But he had just catched the bump at the wrong time that is down there in Tiergarten. Not something you really worry about in the GT3 with the downforce, but in the GT4s and any subsequent class, like also the BMW M2s, you have to be aware of these kind of track characteristics.
Yeah, it's an interesting bump, that's for sure. And if you're not too used to it, it will catch you out every time. But it's
and another driver caught out by this time the curb in Michael Schumacher has a lot of mistakes here so far, something that we haven't seen in the other GT4 races. So maybe some people going a bit too extreme with the setups?
Maybe, yeah. Or just getting a bit caught up in the moment of things and making some mistakes.
J Pacemaker on the back end of Radoslav Piwonkiewicz. It's a battle for P11. Does look quite menacing in the rearview mirror for an Audi to have that BMW.
It is quite a lot bigger, isn't it?
You almost look down onto the Audi from the point of view of the BMW.
Everyone looks down on an Audi, surely.
I'm not sure everybody would agree with that, but let's move on. Schwego trying to hunt down Cesco in the air, but he did pick up quite a lot of damage, and you can see that. But Cesco not really having a good run through Flugplatz and now has to let Schwego make a move around the outside. They top out round about the same, going side by side into Schwedenkreuz. Still side by side, there's contact both off the road and into the wall, and it goes from bad to worse for Schwego.
And coming out of that really badly as well, facing the wrong way. Manages to get flicked round. Luckily, there's plenty of space behind him, so he didn't have to worry too much about traffic. But that is not going to be a happy car now.
Certainly isn't the race he would have hoped for so far. It was two very brave moves, and moves that, if you pull them off, can make you look like the absolute legend. But at the same time, if they don't work, a lot of people will, of course, meme you for it. Although I think that's not quite fair in this situation. He is the championship leader with quite some margin. He can afford to take some more risks, to say it like that.
Yeah, I'm sure he would have liked to have got a really good result here, but he doesn't need to get a good result. So, he can take a few more risks, throw it out there a little bit and see what happens. Just unfortunately, it's caught a couple of other cars in his wake.
And unfortunately, we also have our first DNF in this race, being Roger Niche. Not sure what happened yet, but very unfortunate for him to not be able to finish this one. Dennis Kurzer also seemed to have hit some trouble.
Yeah, he's missing a wheel, so I don't think he's going anywhere particularly quickly.
Oh, that is an, I don't know, he must have really had a big hit there. You can also see the rear left quarter panel basically being deleted in front of the wheel. But yeah, that is most likely also a DNF, unfortunately for him.
I think so, yeah.
Radoslav Piwonkiewicz seems to be a bit more, I wouldn't say faster through this section of the Nordschleife, through the more technical stuff, but more confident, at least. Feels like he's pushing the car a bit more than Joe Pacemaker's able to do.
Yeah, he seems to have opened up a little bit more of a gap. And given himself a bit of breathing room, which is always good, especially on the twisty parts. You don't want to be worrying about somebody sniffing around for an overtake.
Schwiego has found his way past Just Monero's dropped down quite a bit since then. But yeah, the gap to Kimi Hapler is astronomous. 28 seconds. That is, unless something bigger happens, not a gap that he will be able to make up.
No, it's a fairly hefty gap, isn't it? And Dennis Kurzer is carrying on. He's trying his best to get back to the pits on 3 wheels. It took him a while to get back on track, but he is there. Not particularly going quickly, as you might imagine.
Yeah, but Dennis Kurzer is always somebody who's pushing, or he's trying to finish each race he's entering, and huge respect to him for that. It is a very long crawl back to the pits for him.
It is a lot of the track left to go. And Dottinger is going to be painful at those speeds.
And going faster
yeah.
will just cause you to spin out yet again.
Absolutely. But somebody who is having fun coming down Dottinger today is Tim Schroeder, by the look of it. Slowly creeping up on Ali Zahir. He seems to have closed up that gap quite a lot in the last lap.
Yeah, indeed, he seems to have very good pace by the looks of it. For Alizar, of course, it would be very important for the championship to stay ahead of Tim Schroeder, because that makes not only 3 points difference, but of course he also loses the 3 points, so 6 points he would lose to Schwiego. Currently, he is gaining quite a bit on him, 7 points to be exact. Nearly halving his disadvantage in the championship to Schwiego.
That last lap round, though, Tim Schroeder 7 seconds faster than Ali Zahir. I don't know if Ali had some issues or something, but Tim Schroeder making up a lot of time there.
Two very aggressive drivers in their nature. Not necessarily... now I forget the word for it. Not crazy aggressive, but they do go for some bold moves as well. Both on defense and offense. But of course they also know each other quite well, as you can see by the team tag.
Yeah, I don't know if anyone will be pulling team orders here with, like you say, with Ali being second in the championship, but I've got a feeling Tim Schroeder, although respectful of Ali Zahir on track, is probably not too bothered and would rather make the overtake if he could.
Yeah, I don't think they would necessarily break for each other. Just giving it all they have each time. We've also seen Tim Schroeder and Kimi Hapler going at it as much as they could. If you remember the GT3 race with Kimi Hapler trying it around the outside at this very place here.
Yes, I do remember that.
Miroslav Pionkiewicz was able to build a bit of a gap of 1.5 seconds to Jerry Pacemaker, and has Carsten Herrmann just 2 seconds in front of him. So he's still in position for a top 4 finish here. Top 8 finish. Close enough.
Top 4 might be asking a bit much.
Although not impossible, so...
No, that's very true.
Tim Schroeder's sideways Flugplatz in the slipstream of Ali Zahir. As we come towards Schwedenkreuz, we've seen how this can go wrong before. This time, Tim Schroeder going to the inside line. bit braver and losing it on the grass, going round and into the wall just a bit too much. Is lucky to be able to continue, but that will be some damage to his car.
Yeah, I was worried he was going to bowl straight through the grass and hit Ali Zahir there, but just managed to slow down enough and avoid a secondary contact. Another brave move. Not quite working out today, the brave moves, apparently.
Yeah, you could hear that Ali Zahir was completely backing off once Tim Schroeder crossed the line to the brass, but yeah, he could have lifted off a bit more and he would have been fine, I think. It's not like Ali Zahir has contested this move a lot. And yeah, just a bit too wide. Easy to make this mistake.
Not really been talking about Max Dean so much, but he has 30 seconds lead on Ali Zahir right now. He's the only guy in the 8-minute 30s putting in laps. His last lap was an 8:36.396. Currently the fastest lap on track by quite a margin. Really stamping its authority. He came into us pretty much as from RENNSPORT into the Nordschleife League back when it was the Founders League. So this is his spiritual home in RENNSPORT.
Still not sure how much he is agreeing with that statement, but I think it fits perfectly. We go into his achievement list in the Hall of Fame on Discord, which you can always check out. He is one of the first to be entered there, and he has the Founders League Championship. He's won the 2.4-hour race, the first one we did around here, and a Daytona race win. The Florida Beach 500 as he drifts through Mood Curve there. So yeah, certainly a lot of success here on the Nordschleife. Vladislav Pionkovic and Pacemaker side by side through Foxhole. Both have made a mistake earlier in the lap. That's why they have quite the gap to Konarski. But Vladislav using the mistake Pacemaker did there.
It was only a couple of laps, well, a couple of corners ago, sorry, that they both made a mistake. They both came off the track. Vladislav first, and then Pacemaker as he was going past the stricken Vladislav's car. He also ran onto the grass and ended up hitting the barrier a little bit. So both of them probably a bit unused to how their cars are driving right now.
In Foxhole, always a bit scary to go side by side. You usually do not, but Vladislav, with the overspeed he had, feeling confident enough. Let's take a quick look where Dennis Kurzer is, and he is actually in Huron, so he doesn't have long to drive until he's in the pits. But yeah, what a journey for him so far this race. So he will probably merge behind the leaders a lap down.
If there was an award for having the most tenacity, I think he'd definitely get it today.
And certainly the most commitment.
Yeah. I would not like to be paying the repair bill on that M4.
Certainly not. Schwigo, with what it's worth, has decreased the gap to Kimi Hapler a bit since he's been freed, but yeah, it's still 26 seconds, and Kimi Hapler, even though he has picked up some damage of his own in that incident earlier, seems to be still going quite strong.
And Dennis Kurtz's repair bill standing at 2 minutes 42 seconds. So he's going to be stationary for quite a while. Go get yourself a cup of tea.
Max Dehn about to complete lap number 3 in this race. Pretty much completing half race distance.
He's got a handful of purple sectors, so he might get a quicker lap out of this. I'm not sure.
And it is. It's a 8:33.9.
Just in case he was worried about someone stealing his quickest lap points.
The closest currently you would think is Ali Zaher, because both Tim Schroeder and Kimi Hapler have damaged cars. Same for Schwigo. He usually has been very quick around the Nordschleife.
The quickest on time is Tim Schroeder, having an 8:48. He just did a bit of a Swiss shuffle coming in to finish the lap and lost the back end a little bit. So no improvement for him this lap round. Ali Zaher did do his quickest lap, an 8:51.399.
If we run the points to the current positions of the drivers, can take a look at how the championship would look going into the final race. If we take a look here, we can see that Trigger is still leading, although not by that many points anymore. 7 to be exact. And if you think about qualifying here today, Ali Zaher has gained 2 points just in qualifying. So that would put him into a decent range going into the final race, which is back with the GT3s, of course. And then quite a big gap to both Kimi Hapler and Dominic Lalonde, 48 and 40 points respectively. So you can pretty safely say that these two are already out of the championship. So yeah, this could be setting us up for a 1 vs 1 finale kind of race. Of course, with a lot more cars on track. And a 90-minute race with open GT3 setups.
And his Kurtz are just coming back on track right now, just leaving a gap for Chestu Monera, deciding to be a good racing person.
Yeah, Dennis Kurtzer knows when he has something to gain and when not. And of course, being lapped down in the Nordschleife, that is quite the distance, but still he would get some points for this race. Currently looking at 4 points, which would also help him in the standings up to P16. And only half a point behind Roger Niche. Cisco Monreal, meanwhile, would jump up into P8 with his current result. Maximilian Dehn into P6.
Just under 16 minutes left of the race, but I'm not sure Tim Schroeder's given up the idea of coming second. He seems to be pushing pretty hard, and he is closing in on Ali Zaher.
But he has lost quite a lot of time again, because when he crossed the line, of course he had that bit of a drift through Hohenrhein, as you said before. But 10-second gap is quite a lot more than it was before. As Konarski is also getting closer to the derby here, so he may be able to get P7. But definitely a very different race for other reasons this time around. Usually in the GT4s, you also see a lot of audacious moves and also some of them going wrong. But so far in this race, a lot of people doing very good setups, but not really able to make them work or just overestimating the cars. As said, maybe they use some setups that they are not familiar with how to fight, to say it like that. We know that all of them are great in terms of the racing itself. We've seen that in RNL and RCL. But something seems to be different about the cars this time around.
Yeah, there does seem to be people losing it a little bit more than maybe we're used to. It could be the dangers of setting up a car just for a race and not testing it against racing other people. If you just set it up based on time trial and practice laps, you can get a very good car for going quick, but that doesn't mean it's going to be good when you start having to deal with all the traffic and trying to make overtakes.
Yeah, you can basically compare to driving on a razor sharp car, and then you suddenly find yourself into dirty air. And even though these cars don't have a lot of aerodynamics, it does make a difference, and you start to just oversteer that little bit more, and it pushes you over the edge. And of course, it has been quite some time with Christmas breaks and lack of practice, as somebody in Twitch chat is rightfully saying. Although we already had a race this year. So this isn't the first race in 2026 here on the Nordschleife. Speaking of, we can take a quick look and recap the season. Because we have started way back on the 22nd in November with the GT3s here on the Nordschleife. Oh, and Konarski with a big hit into the wall, going to unknown. This is maybe what has also happened. And he has also lost a wheel. And I think that's the same thing that has happened to Dennis Kurzer. You haven't really seen that on the screen because we had the graphics up. But he's stuck with 3 wheels at the exact same position as Dennis Kurzer. And if he can't make his way back on track, like Dennis Kurzer has, oh, that is very unfortunate for him.
Yeah, it did take Dennis Kurzer a long time to get back on track. A lot of reversing and maneuvering and trying to get his car rotated in the right direction. Obviously, if you're missing a front wheel, steering is a bit tricky.
And especially on the grass, he basically has to reverse now and hope to get into the right way. But yeah, super unfortunate there for him. Just getting too hot into Arden now. You have this jump over the curb, essentially, and that sent him flying because it was just a bit too much for the car to handle. And this may actually mean that Dennis Kurzer, who has not seen it because it happened behind him, but he has a chance at P11 here. In case somebody else has some issues. I think Nemesis Pro is in the pits as well, but don't think it's close enough for Dennis Kurzer. But he has a chance at basically getting P11 here, maybe even P10.
Konarski has got back on track. It took him a while, but he is there. He is moving. He's going to be very limited on his speed, though, as Dennis Kurzer will attest to.
It's already crazy to see one person with that issue. Having this twice is, well, quite the stat, let's say, especially at the same place. But just shows how easy it is to make a mistake around here. Of course, freed up Piotr Zadajab a bit to now do not worry about a BMW charging up in front. Władysław Piłonkiewicz is only 11 seconds away. These two, of course, for the same team. But Max Dehn with 2 laps to go. And a minute lead over Alizaya, so really putting the hammer down. not taking any compromises this race. And out of the pits comes Nemesis Pro. Now he is rejoining just behind Tim Schroeder. So that is about 1 minute and 40 in front of Dennis Kurzer. But yeah, before we were basically I can't speak today. Just so much happening that's making me speechless. Before we got distracted by the big off there from Konarski, we were talking about the schedule, and as said, we were starting nearly 2 months ago with the GT3s, and in 2 weeks we will have our final race of the season with the GT3s, this time with open setups in a 90-minute race. These races do give out an extra point for completing half races distance, so that will of course be quite interesting as well for the championship. And yeah, of course, we also have RCL. Now in the RCL, what we had in the past seasons and what we also still have for this season is the community vote for the final track. And next week we will have round number 5 at Monza. And we will also have the community vote taking place. So sometime next week you will see a voting popping up in the Discord where you can vote for your favorite track, or at least if your favorite track is one of the 3 that are being able to choose from. Maybe it will be Road Atlanta again, maybe not.
It should be.
It should always be. For those who are a bit newer to the channel or a bit more unfamiliar with RCL, the track voting has, I think, 2 out of 3 times resulted in Road Atlanta. So...
Because it's the best track, Lino, that's why.
I don't hate it. Did not judge that, but it's definitely a fact that is...
I'm biased towards it, I don't care.
8 seconds between the 2 NGS drivers, so Radoslav currently a bit quicker than Piotr Zadai with 2 more laps to go, maybe a chance for him at P7. But yeah, keep your eyes open on the Discord to have a say in what will be the final race in Season 8 in RCL. That season finale then of course being in 3 weeks. And I think what I can already say is for Season 9, which is already planned, there will be quite some interesting changes, which we will talk about in the RCL live streams of course. So I think that will be quite interesting, mix things a bit up.
All cars have to race backwards.
I think we had somebody asking for that, but no. Nordschleife in reverse could be quite interesting though. There's actually a rally, I don't remember which rally it was. It was like a local German rally championship of course, but they actually race a part of the Nordschleife in reverse. I think they enter somewhere in Pflanzgarten, so where the jump is essentially, and exit just before or after the carousel, but in reverse. So they drive this whole complex, which you usually drive downhill, which is where Maximilian Dehn will be shortly starting, in reverse, which is quite interesting to see actually. It's of course not something you can do in a race because it would be very dangerous to do. But yeah, for those rally championships they actually do that.
I think it's the rallycross at Spa as well, where they go up to Eau Rouge and then just do a complete U-turn in the track and then come down the other side of Eau Rouge.
Yeah, indeed. Rallycross at Spa is also a lot of fun. I think the exit around here at Tor 8 on the left-hand or now right-hand side of the picture. Of course, the main reason you can't race in reverse are those barriers that just stick out. Racing tracks are always designed to be raced in one way, or mostly designed to be raced in one way, and that's why you have these exit roads basically facing the same way as the track go. And yeah, it's the Rally Köln Ahrweiler. Thank you, Chaot, for... as my internet is having a little cut out there. Thanks for clarifying that in Twitch chat. They have some very, very cool cars in there, though. Like, when I went to the Nordschleife and the rally was taking place, which was actually by accident, I didn't know it was on this day. You've seen some classic Escorts and even like a mini 1965 one. And all these cars.
An actual mini.
Yep. So there are some dates on the Nordschleife, even if there's no track racing like NLS or Nürburgring 24 hours or whatever, that you can see some very, very cool cars without even having to pay for it, essentially. And Dennis Kurzer has officially passed Nemesis Pro for P11, with Carsten Herrmann still on his way back to the pits. He may as well just wait until the timer runs out. Not sure what he will decide for, but Dennis Kurzer is on course to get P10 here still.
Right, that's what it is, Lena. He's trying. He's difficult. His car does keep going off the track funnily enough. He keeps trying to push it above about 120 kilometers an hour, and then things get a bit unpredictable.
I certainly do. The gap between Zadaib and Raslav Pionkiewicz 5.3 seconds now. Raslav really closing in quickly in this technical section. Which goes back to the point that he seems to be a lot more confident with the car. Also, he threw Versalfen, keeping it much tighter to the inside, using the rotation the Audi has available compared to the BMW. And confidence is just so incredibly important around this track. Max Dehn has started the final lap as well. So it's another 8 minutes and 30.
I think he was just a bit too short to have waited and made it one lap shorter. He is currently 75 seconds into the lead, but the gap, the time left on the clock was just a bit too much for him to risk waiting for it.
Even though he isn't really the type to do that anyway. I would highly doubt he would have done that. The gap between Kimi Hapler and Schwigo, something that we haven't revisited in quite a while, is below 10 seconds, but 9 seconds within a lap between these two drivers. Still quite difficult, so it's looking good for Alizar, who has himself a gap of 14 seconds to Tim Schroeder, so that comeback try that Tim Schroeder had not really working out. Still on a podium course here, but yeah, that mistake he did through Schwedenkreuz. Oh, and now locking the tires, running too little ABS, potentially. And another spin in Hohenrhein, just like last lap. At least it looked like he locked the front left quite hard there. And Konarski is actually not coming into the pits here.
Yeah, it's a strange choice by Konarski there. I don't think he realizes he's got a whole nother lap to go.
I think he's trying to finish. He's parking just in front of the line. I think, to be honest, in this case, that's totally fine there. We'll just wait for Max Dehn to come around and finish the lap that
He's
way.
reversing. Don't do that too much. Oh, he's just... Right. He's pulled off into the grass. Stop reversing. Stop reversing.
Oh, and Piotr Deibel has actually DNF'd from this race just now. Of course, a big shame this late into the race. That basically gives Dennis Kurzer P10 by default, but not quite sure what happened there. I'm sure we will find out later in the Discord.
Not entirely sure what Konarski's doing now. He keeps going forward a bit and reversing a bit and going forward a bit and reversing a bit. And I think something's happened to him.
I think you just called it.
I think he might have done, yeah. I think he was trying to get back into the pit lane after realizing there was another lap to go.
Tried his best to come back in it, but yeah, of course, if you lose a wheel, that's quite a lot of damage to not be repaired that easily.
Nemesis Pro is also trying to get around the track, I think, but he keeps losing control. He's back on track again now. Seems to be moving.
I'm still surprised after all we've seen this race, and it has been a very chaotic race. I think there's no other way to really say it. That we've only seen 4 DNFs. I mean, 2 of them were quite violent, maybe, but yeah, a lot of people still out there. Just putting in the laps, putting in the effort to finish this race.
Well, yeah, the beauty of championship points, I suppose, is that it keeps people engaged in finishing the race, and people putting a lot of effort in here to get to the end, which I always appreciate.
Jaroslav Pionkiewicz running a bit wide on the Grand Prix circuit. Car that just passed him, that is Dennis Kurzer, so not a position lost.
I think that was Chestu Manera.
Oh yeah, indeed, it was just sorry. They do drive the same car and they do drive for the same team.
They are driving the same car, and Radislav Pionkiewicz was on the Grand Prix circuit at the time, so...
But actually, one thing that, of course, in our league does play a role. I will have to double check 1 second.
No worries.
But you have to complete 90% of the race distance for the points. And since Konarski was within this 90%... My internet is also just working for 90% this time. But yeah, since he completed pretty much 90% race distance in terms of the time span, which is everything after 40 minutes, both he and Piotr Deibel do actually count as finished drivers, as it's really not letting me finish this livestream now. But both Piotr Deibel and Carsten Hermann have finished 90% race distance and therefore will be able to collect some points for it. So at least some silver lining for them.
Strigo and Kimi about halfway around the last lap now. The gap between them 6.5 seconds. So I think unless Enrico Bräuninger is been saving himself up for a last-minute charge, he's going to have quite a lot of problems closing up that six.
Max Steen is on the final stretch to win this race. It's been his comeback to the Nordschleife. And what a comeback it has been. 90 seconds to Alizar. That is quite a lot for... I mean, we know how quick
It is, yeah.
He is.
Yeah, for sure. And but it's an impressive kind of race back from Max Dean there. It's really left no questions about his time off and how it's left his racing ability.
He certainly didn't. So congratulations to Max Dean, coming back with the victory and a Grand Slam, to say it like that, because he got endurance point for fastest lap. He got qualifying bonus of 3 points. He won the race from pole position and led every single lap, I think.
Yeah, I think he did. I think he led from...
But also for Alizar, he will come home in second unless something big happens here. It may not have been his most spectacular GT4 race, although that fight with with Tim Schreider, was quite intense at some point. But he just played it cool, he played it safe. And yeah, he's
backed some valuable points, hasn't he?
Yeah. He's cutting down the lead.
It may not be the most exciting way, but it's... Now, if only Lino's internet can make it to the end of the race.
That would be lovely. Yeah, I'm very sorry for these issues. It's sometimes... It just doesn't like me. But yes, as I said, he backed some very valuable points. He made the race count. And he is in a very good position to maybe make a bit of an upset in the final race.
Enrico hasn't given up the fight until the very end. He's now 3 seconds behind Kimi Hartler, but he's not going to catch him before the finish line.
I would have waited until we're out of the final turn with that. Sometimes with Kimi, you don't know. But yeah, 4th and 5th for these two. The top 6 actually being the same guys that also started the race in the top 6. And then it's Jerry Pacemaker and Radoslav Piwonkiewicz in 7th and 8th. Which certainly is a good result for the both of them, looking at where they started. They have still quite some distance to go. And actually Radoslav Piwonkiewicz is catching, but 13 seconds is still quite a lot to make it up in 3 remaining sectors.
Yes, it's a big ask. Never say never, but... Oh, that might have answered that one.
Yeah, it has pretty much completed this challenge. So let's actually have a quick look at how this changed the championship standings. Because of course, since the last time we took a look, it changed quite a bit on many fronts. As said, both Piotr Zadajby and Konarski will get points for completing 90% race distance. And if we take a look at the championship standings as they are right now into the top 12, we see Shrigo on 73 points in front of Alizaya on 66, so 7 points. In the GT3 race, you will have the ability to make an extra point through distance alone. You have the opportunity to get some good points in qualifying. So if Alizaya qualifies ahead of Enrico, that's already 1 point. In case he's in the top 3. Maybe even some more points if people slot in between the two of them, like we had today. And the rest will be decided on the track. So I'm very much looking forward to that.
It's set up for a pretty exciting final race of this season of the RNL. I couldn't remember the name for a minute there. But yeah, the fight between Ali Zahir and Enrico Breuninger in first is going to be a good one. Also, Dominic Ladler, Kimi Harpelo, they're pretty close together. Julian Sakir, Max Dean, if he turns up for the final race. Theodore Popper, they're all very close together. Chess Chumanera are not far behind either.
Yeah, I mean, there are still some duels left to settle, but we have it set out for the championship fight for the winner. And that will be done in 2 weeks. Open setups in the GT3s are something we didn't have this season yet. So that will be some new ground to explore. As said just before, essentially, we will have the community voting for the RCL before we head to Monza for the penultimate round next week, which I think will be very interesting after what we've seen at Fuji with the EVR guys, Nico Nüninghoff coming up. Not sure how many of them will be there next week, but it certainly does look interesting in the RNL as well. We may crown ourselves a new champion as well there. So I'm looking forward for that. But yeah, do you have any takeaways, any final things you wanna let people know?
Stay on the track. That's my takeaway from this race.
And it's very good advice, I'd say. Yeah, with all that said, thank you all for watching what was quite the chaotic RNL race this time around. I'd say we see you next time in 1 week, same time, at Monza. And enjoy the week and enjoy the rest of your weekend. Until then, goodbye.
Goodbye.